Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Friday, 12th of May, 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to that news and sport and business and Sea-Watch and travel updates. And the newsmakers in person this evening, the 2 delivery drivers and the 30,000 lateral flow test fiddle. Peel's new sewage plant is a positive, says Ray Harmer. The Infrastructure Minister says sorry over first-time buyers. Julie Edge, MHK, on the changing culture around whistleblowing and 2023's Manx Youth Games on this weekend.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster Mai, Dave Moore.
Faster Mai, a jury has been appointed in the trial of a former Castletown man accused of murder. 54-year-old Ian Anthony Anderson is charged with murdering Neil Roberts on December 1st, 2013. The trial will begin on Monday. Criminal proceedings against 2 Manx residents charged with perjury in relation to a fraud and money laundering operation have been declared null. The High Court ruled the advocate issuing the summons against them wasn't authorised to do so. The Isle of Man have been beaten in their final group game at the Europe Netball Challenge in Cardiff. They lost 49-30 to the Republic of Ireland, which is their second defeat in a row. Further afield, advances in DNA technology have led to a 55-year-old man being convicted of the murder of a 7-year-old girl in 1992. Nikki Allen's body was found dumped in a derelict warehouse in Sunderland. Police say David Boyd prolonged her family's suffering. Both Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson have criticised their decision not to allow Ukraine's president to address tomorrow's Eurovision final. The organisers of the contest say letting Volodymyr Zelensky speak could politicise the event. And a comedy club that cancelled an Edinburgh Fringe show featuring an MP has apologised and said it'll now go ahead. The Stand initially said it was dropping the event because of Joanna Cherry's views on gender and biological sex. Those are the Update News headlines. The next bulletin is at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goramaya, thank you, Dave, from the Ronaldsway Met Office. No wind warning for the North Irish Sea. State of sea is smooth or slight. It's a gorgeous evening this evening on the Isle of Man. Dry, partially cloudy with some late sunshine, a light to moderate northeasterly. It'll continue dry after dark. The overnight minimum temperature 9 Celsius. And for Saturday, tomorrow, Jasan, dry with long sunny periods, variable breezes, daytime maximum 17. Another dry night and down to 9 into Jaduni. Sunday, dry and cloudy. Some rain will arrive in the afternoon as the light to moderate southwesterly veers northwesterly and freshens during the evening. High temperature 14 Celsius. High water in a little over 10 minutes time at 5:45. Sunset 9:10 tonight. Low water 17 minutes after midnight. Sunrise 19 minutes past 5. And the morning high tide at 18 minutes past 6.
Visit the Manx Glass and Glazing website and see a range of products from windows to doors, mirrors to splashbacks. manxglass.com.
2 delivery drivers who fraudulently obtained more than 30,000 lateral flow tests at the height of the COVID pandemic have been told their behaviour was appalling. Stephen Kegg and Lucy Randall Heslop exploited the Manx government system by self-generating work in order to gain financially. Their actions were only uncovered when hundreds of tests were found dumped in a skip at the Eastern Civic Amenities site. The story from Tessa Hawley.
At Douglas Courthouse, the pair were sentenced after previously admitting committing fraud by false representation between August and October 2021. Kegg was described by his advocate as having torpedoed his life. The 41-year-old and his 39-year-old co-accused were self-employed drivers who were being paid £1 by Manx independent carriers each time they delivered the LFTs. In August 2021, the company had secured the government contract to fulfil the delivery of the tests 6 days a week directly to people's homes. The court heard an investigation launched after the discovery of the dumped LFTs showed a number of suspicious requests had been made, which were later traced to Kegg and Randall Heslop. The court heard Keg had ordered 11,000 LFTs between August and October, with Randall Heslop ordering 19,000. Kegg's advocate said his client had been able to exploit the government system by making around 400 false orders, as there had been no checks and balances in place. This was entirely dishonest from the outset. My client doesn't shy away from that, he added. He felt that no one would be directly hurt. Sentencing the pair, Deemster Graham Cook said the offences had been committed at a time of serious COVID. This was at a time when the Isle of Man was doing its best, he told them. You took 30,000 of those tests away. It was an appalling thing for you both to get involved with. Jailing Keg, who had no previous convictions, to 25 months in custody. Telling Randall Heslop he was prepared to take a more lenient view, he imposed a 12-month custodial sentence, suspended for 18 months. She'll also be under an 18-month suspended sentence supervision order.
Appeal Commissioner says the plan for a new sewage plant is a positive thing for Sunset City. Ray Harmer says it's a massive step forward and residents have waited a long time for a treatment plant. Here's our local democracy reporter, Emma Draper.
It's a really, really positive thing. It's going to be in one of the furthest fields from the power plant, so I think there's nothing bad about it. It really is a case of it's really, really good news. Obviously it's going to take probably some time to actually get the planning through, to get all the pieces together, so it still could be a little way away, but this is a massive forward step.
And have you had any correspondence with residents who are happy, unhappy? What would you say the general feel is?
Just general relief, really, that we're really finally moving forward, because we have waited for a very, very long time. Certainly it was on the agenda 14 years ago in Peel, but it's been the IRIS scheme was originally started in the late 80s. So this is a huge thing, and I think getting the plant in, getting it bathing standard, high standard, because our beach fails all the time, not all the time, but quite regularly the main beach fails. So it's only a positive step, really. As I say, there were concerns back in the day of an open plant, but this isn't an open plant, this is a closed plant. Access will be from Glenfaber Road, so yeah, it's really positive and ticks, I think, all the boxes and concerns that people may have had in the past.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
The Infrastructure Minister's apologised to prospective first-time buyers who've seen the properties they want to purchase increase by £18,000. The Minister maintains the government's assistance scheme still offers value, despite his department writing to people who've expressed an interest in the Meadows in Castletown. Two-bedroom properties will now go out at £168,000, not the £150,000 stated by DOI just 8 weeks ago. Here's the Minister, Chris Thomas, MHK.
It matters. Individuals will struggle perhaps to find this extra 18,000, but the situation was even worse, I think, in 2018-19. Around then, when we weren't even able to find demand for houses coming out of some of the estates that were being built. So we had very little amount of affordable houses created and purchased and lived in those years. And I'm delighted that the rate of take-up seems to be hugely increasing, because more and more of these houses are becoming available and there does seem to be demand. And I can only apologise that it's going to be at 168,000 for these 16 people, as opposed to 150 that it has been for the most recent people, and it could be even more than that, could be up to 175 in coming months even under other sites, because as I said to you, this planning agreement was back in 2020 and there has been substantial cost inflation since then.
We've seen government arguably waste so much money, taxpayers' money, on recent projects, on paying for things like employment tribunals, things that were nothing to do with the public. They weren't the public's fault. Has the department considered meeting this cost itself? And if not, why not?
They're hugely unconnected issues. I wouldn't have I've expressed personal regret that these people are in a different financial position if they're successful on the waiting list, on the short list, than they would have been otherwise. But I think it's a bit of a long stretch to link it with, 3 million settlement, 3 million plus settlement, or allegedly wasting money on other projects. So apologies to these people.
Criminal proceedings against 2 Manx residents charged with perjury in relation to a fraud and money laundering operation have been declared null after the High Court ruled the advocate issuing the summons against them wasn't authorised to do so. First Deemster Andrew Corlett quashed a previous ruling by Deputy High Bailiff that had stated London-based advocate Timothy Green KC had the power to act as Attorney General in relation to this case. The story from Sean Cowper.
Former Chief Minister Alan Bell appointed Mr Green to act in this case in November 2014. The then Attorney General, Stephen Harding, was suspended at the time pending a criminal investigation, while Acting Attorney General John Quinn had a conflict of interest. Legal representatives for Paul and Sarah Bell, who were charged with perjury in May last year, argued that Mr Green's temporary powers had elapsed by the time he issued the summons. In response, Mr Green insisted his authorisation had just one condition, that he was limited to this case, known as Operation Braid. Deemster Corlett found the law used to appoint Mr Green could only have been used for temporary conditions, and that by the time the summons was issued, circumstances had changed. The Deemster found the directions appointing Mr Green would have ceased to exist when Walter Wannenberg was appointed as Secretary-General in July 2015, when John Quinn was appointed Attorney-General on a permanent basis in March 2017, and when Mr Quinn died in January last year. Because the authorisation had ceased to be valid, Deemster Corlett ruled the summons issued against the Bells is invalid and of no effect, and that the Deputy High Bailiff had erred in law with his previous ruling. Deemster Corlett also highlighted that Mr Green appeared to have been taking instructions straight from the Isle of Man Constabulary, something that Deemster described as a matter of constitutional concern. Deemster Corlett ordered that Mr Green pay costs in this case.
Sea-Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Mothership Ben McCree departed Heysham at 24 minutes before 3. She'll be into Douglas in the next half hour or so. On to the Manxman, departing this evening at 7:45 for Heysham, arriving there at 11:30 tonight. Overnight departure from 2:15 back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. High-speed craft Manannan left Douglas at 8 minutes before 3. She's on the Linkspan in Liverpool as I speak. Will be leaving this evening at 7:15 back to Douglas at 10. Tomorrow morning's departures, Manannan departs Douglas at 7:15 for Liverpool, and Ben McCree departs Douglas at 8:15 for Heysham.
Like the Steam Packet on Facebook for the latest sailing information.
The 2023 Manx Youth Games take place this weekend with hundreds of youngsters taking part in 14 different sports across the Isle of Man. So why are the games so popular each year, and what do they aim to achieve? Here's Gareth Lloyd from Manx Sport and Recreation.
It comes around quickly every year. Yeah, it's our biggest flagship event, what we do on the island for young people in a sporting environment. So yeah, really excited. So we've had over 1,500 children register interest in the event this year. Obviously, things can happen on the day and stuff like that, people away on holidays and stuff. So normally we have around 1,000 participants on the day.
What is it that makes the Manx Youth Games so popular?
Our main aim is just to break the barriers down, not just for the sports themselves to be able to put on the activities for the children, but it's just breaking down the barriers, making sure they're low cost each session. And the main aim overall is to, one, get the children active and hopefully make it a more sustainable thing in their social calendar, so to speak.
There's a different side to sport as well, the social aspect of getting to know new people and getting out into different environments. Just how important is that for children's development as a whole?
Well, it's massively important. Again, the games are more just about participation and making friends and making memories as a youngster, and we try and take the competitive element out of it, so it's an environment where children don't have to fear that side of stuff. We take place this Saturday, so the children are asked to register from 9 o'clock onwards down at the NSC. We have an opening ceremony which takes place from around 10 o'clock. Then once they start around 11 o'clock from there they have the different round robin games. Again, just keeping it in a friendly manner so all the regions come together playing the sports rather than just being in the individual regions.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
It's 16 minutes before 6. The UK Royal Mail Chief Exec Simon Thompson's quit after a bitter year-long dispute with the Postal Workers Union, the company announced today. Simon Thompson was in the top job for just over 2 years and last month finally reached a deal with the Communications Workers Union on pay and conditions after 12 months of strikes that will see staff get a 10% salary increase and a £500 one-off payment. A full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com.
The Stock Market Report. Brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stock markets were mixed. The US dollar edged higher and oil stabilised. Gold was priced steady. The numbers now from Ramsey Crookall. At the close in London, the FTSE 100 was up 0.3% at 7,754. The DAX in Frankfurt closed up almost 0.5% at 15,906. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial down 0.25% at 33,216. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index was down about 0.5% at 12,272, and the S&P 500 in Chicago down 0.33% at 4,117. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 24.6 cents, €1 14.7 cents, and 24 South African rand 9.7 cents. In commodities, gold's down 0.1% at $2,011 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down 1 4/10% at $74.30.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Isle of Man Water Sports. Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Here's the relevant information. If you're sailing, kayaking, windsurfing, paddleboarding, sea swimming, diving or surfing this weekend around the Manx coast, sea temperature is 10 degrees Celsius. Nice weekend. Well, nice Saturday, certainly. Tomorrow, the wind is variable, force 3 or less, becoming south or southwesterly, force 3 or 4 later. Wave height 0.2 metres. Wave period 3 to 3.5 seconds. High tide is 6:15 a.m. and 7 p.m. For Jadooni, Sunday, the wind is southerly or southwesterly, force 3 or 4, veering northwesterly, 4 or 5 in the evening. Wave height 0.2 metres, becoming 0.5 to 1.2 metre later. Wave period 2 to 3 seconds. And high tide 7:45 a.m. 8:15 p.m.
Manx Glass and Glazing can produce bespoke splashbacks for your kitchen in any colours. Speak to the team on 674 573. Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
The only way you can change government culture around whistleblowing is to be approachable, says Education Minister Julie Edge MHK, who's been giving evidence to Tynwald's Social Affairs Policy Review Committee.
Certainly as Minister I receive people do contact me direct. I'm sure that's because they're aware that I've been a bit champion for whistleblowers, which helps support culture across government. And certainly within our department, people do contact me direct. I know they do contact many of my MHK colleagues as well. I think the key to any concerns our staff have, there is an open door there, and certainly I know that Chief Executive Officer does reach out to staff, and any staff that are leaving, he always reaches out as well. The only way you can change culture is to be that approachable department, that people feel confident that when they do come to the department with a concern that it's addressed. They might not always like the outcome of what they bring to you, because it might not be the solution that they thought they'd see when they walked through the door, but certainly I'm very keen that anybody that has a concern, that it is looked into thoroughly and addressed, and find a way forward with any difficulties within the workforce.
Manx Radio Sport.
Faster My sports editor Rob Pritchard.
Faster My, good evening. Starting with motorsport, a Manx motorcycle racer Nathan Harrison has suffered a broken collarbone after a crash last night at this year's Northwest 200. The Honda Racing UK rider also sustained a broken radius in his left wrist after an incident at Duvarron during the Superstock race on Thursday evening. He was kept in overnight at Coleraine Hospital for checks. It puts the Onca man's prospects of competing at this year's TT in doubt, with the Ireland event in just over 2 weeks' time. Harrison made his TT debut last year, finishing 10th in the senior race. In netball, the Manx Rams have suffered their second defeat in a row at the 2023 Europe Netball Open Challenge in Cardiff this afternoon. The Ireland side went down 30-49 to the Republic of Ireland in a game where the Rams had a tough start and trailed 13-20 at half-time. Despite a fight back in the final 2 quarters, Ireland maintained their advantage, meaning the Rams came away empty-handed. The Ireland squad will be back in action again across Saturday and Sunday in the competition, with their fixtures to be decided tonight. Turning to football, and it's a big weekend ahead with Premier League champions Peel and FA Cup winners Corinthians to face off in the Descartes Railway Cup final this Saturday. That match gets underway tomorrow at 5:15pm with full live match commentary here on Manx Radio. Meanwhile, 4 teams in action too on Saturday in the semi-finals of the Hospital Cup, with Laxey hosting Ayr United and St John's United welcome Russian United. Those games, along with 2 league matches of Moran versus Douglas High School Old Boys in the Premier League and Foxdale versus Douglas and District in Division 2, will get underway at 2:30pm. And in cycling, 12 athletes will represent the Isle of Man in cycling at this year's Ireland Games. 5 have been selected for the road race: Will Draper, Michael Fade, Jamie Fletcher, Mark Hosthouse and Niall Quiggin. Meanwhile, Elliot Baxter, Owen Collins, Eric Kelly, Alex Rotwell and Ross Thorley in the MTB squad, with Sasha Hosthouse and Kerry Quayle also named in the travelling team to be led by Gianni Epifani and Rob Sorby. The 2023 Ireland Games will take place in Guernsey from the 8th to the 14th of July.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the EasyJet 6 o'clock from Bristol is 5 minutes late inbound. Then it's the 7:20 EasyJet from Liverpool, that's half an hour late. The 10:08 Loganair from London City is on time. The 5:08 Loganair returning place and transfer from Liverpool on time. And the 8:30 EasyJet from Gatwick on time. Outbound tonight, 6 o'clock EasyJet to Manchester, 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool. The 6:30 EasyJet to Bristol, all showing on time. The 10:08 EasyJet to Liverpool is delayed half an hour out till 8:20. The 9 o'clock EasyJet back to London Gatwick showing on time. On the roads, the Ballymena road's got phased closures because of water main replacement. Imagine roads closed between Ramsey and the Bungalow. In Douglas, temporary lights on Grove Road near the NSC, and temporary lights at Upper Dukes Road at the Falconcliff Terrace junction. In Oncombe, Groundle Road is closed between Church Road and Fairway Close for gas work. In Groundle itself, temporary lights on the King Edward Road between Groundle and the Liverpool Arms for drainage work. Temporary lights on Newcastle Town Road north of the Ferry Bridge for drainage work in Santon, and north of Ballasella, section of the Ballagorn Road is closed for water main work near the Ballamoda. Temporary closures around East Quay and Peel. Temporary lights on Glen Road in Laxey near the football club. On the TT course, lights in Glen Helen for tree felling, lights in Sulby on the straight for resurfacing, and lights between Glenduff and Glen Alden for work on the pavement.
H&Hmotorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
The Isle of Man's Chief Fire Officer says more money for the service will be very welcome, but he's realistic about the current financial position. Mark Christian's comments follow a report which set out recommendations and identified budgetary pressures to be a contributing factor.
I would always take the offer of more staff, but I'm realistic where we are with budgets, and I'm realistic where Isle of Man government is currently. As you know, the jobs market on the Isle of Man is really competitive at the moment, and we have to make ourselves an attractive employer. For the whole-time service, we still get quite a healthy amount of candidates who apply. The on-call service, so all 7 of our stations have on-call staff, and 6 of them stations are outlying stations outside Douglas. That is becoming more challenging, but that's a national picture across the UK as well. Probably since 2012, we've had budget pressures really in the fire and rescue service. We work very closely with the department and the finance officer in the Department of Home Affairs, who's very supportive of what we do. But like any other government department, we've got to play our part. There's not an open chequebook there. But yeah, finance is a struggle. So about 93% of our budget is wages. So it leaves a very small amount of revenue for day-to-day business. Our operational demand is really hard to predict.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
Watch out this evening. The Manx National Rally is around. There are road closures around Marine Drive, Old Castletown Road, Shore Road through Gansey and the Castletown Bypass, a stretch of the Switchback and Starvey Road, and closures later on around Little London, Brandywell, Ingerbreck and part of the Scollard Road. A big year awaits Manx rider Ryan Cringle, who make his TT debut in a couple of weeks' time. A year on from his brother Jamie making his debut. What's Ryan hoping for in his first outing?
Yeah, something I've obviously been looking forward to getting. It's been a few years coming, but I've always said I'll do it when the time's right, and for one reason or another, it's taken a while to get to this stage, but now I feel like the time is right. We're going to give it a good go this year, but I'm excited for the challenge ahead, definitely, but I fully expect once we get there, it's going to be hard to enjoy to start with, because there's going to be that many things going on, that many things to take in, the speeds we're going and the characteristics of the bike, everything around you. Just nothing's going to be normal to me, so it's going to take a lot to settle in, I think. But by the time we get towards the end of practice week, hopefully things are starting to make sense.
Why does now feel like the right time to step into TT? What's made you think, I'm ready now, this is what I should be doing?
Yeah, I've always been a part of it. So my dad always sponsored Big H, and so as a kid I've always been in the paddock. I've grew up in there, probably in that paddock 20 years, but I've always enjoyed my short circuit racing, and I just didn't feel like I've always felt like I wanted to tick the box, but I just never felt that. Like every time TT's on, I felt like, I wish I was doing that, but when it went away, the bug wasn't there like it needed to be. And obviously since last year it's finished, and I was going to go to the Manx for last year, but then I thought I'll just hold off for a bit and go for the TT instead, and the bug just hasn't left me. It's there still, it's real, I want to do it, and because I feel this way now, I'm going to go at it and have a go. If it clicks, hopefully it does, we'll have a lot of fun and just see, but I've got the right people around me to make it happen. It's just me just learning it now, and as long as we have fun, it might take a few years, but we'll see.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Dave Moore, producer Rob Pritchard. Stick around, Rob's on after the news with Friday Sport. Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley at 6:30. How we came with some jazz at 9 o'clock. Back on Monday.
WIN